Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk.
I had a question from one of our viewers in regards to the halfway house. And some of you guys may or may not know about the halfway house, what a halfway house represents, what its purpose is. Well, I'm gonna try to break it down to you guys. The halfway house is where you're released at before you actually go to a personal residence. And a lot of times, the state or the feds, if you've done a significant amount of time, you don't really have a place to go. You can transition to the halfway house, or you're eligible for so much halfway house before you get out. If you've done, I think, over 10 years, you're eligible for 6 months to almost a year halfway house. If you've done 5 years, I think you're eligible for anywhere from 6 to 3 months. It just kind of depends. A halfway house is usually like a dormitory type setup, kind of like what you would see in like a convalescent home or like a smaller hospital, where you have these little dorm rooms set up, and in each dorm room they have roughly, it could be anywhere from 8 to 10 people sleeping, some on bunk beds. You have a shower, like a shower area that people share. You have a bathroom that people share. So usually it's one bathroom per every 10 people. They got a kitchen area. They got a TV area. They got a staff area. They got a recreational area where you can go out and like work, exercise and stuff like that, or hang out. And then they have programs in there, like work release programs, programs that kind of try to help you, deal with issues after, as far as mental issues, if you're dealing with those after having gotten out. In my case, because I had a 120-month sentence, and I did over, 8 years. I was eligible for 6 months halfway house. I only took 3 months because I was still trying to prepare myself, and didn't really want to deal with a lot of things over my head when I got out. Because the halfway house, you're still partially in jail, to a degree. You can go out during the day if you have a job, but if you fuck up, they can send you back to the pen. Most halfway houses are privately ran. They have private groups that run these halfway houses, and it could be a mixture of state and federal ex-inmates in the facility. It could be a mixture of women and men. Some guys hook up with females up while they're up in there. Usually they give you, I think you get 2 meals a day if you're lucky. Maybe if you don't work and you're there all day, I think you can get 3 meals. But they're catered, bags, stuff, or sometimes the lunch is bagged. The dinner, they can bring in a tray, get a hot tray. Breakfast usually cold. Lunch is usually a sack lunch or something. You might get lucky and get like some old burger or something, and then dinner is usually like some type of hot meal that's been catered, because they they privately cater the meals, the staff in there, they're showing their ass. Most of these people, some of them are college educated, some of them are just people that kind of fell into a job because they didn't have a record. They do random piss tests, so if you test dirty, you can get sent back. You get more time to your sentence. If you were on a drug program and you test dirty, you can lose your year off you got from the drug program. So that you get fucked like that. And these halfway houses, what their goal is to transition you to home confinement, which allows them to rent out that same bed to another individual. So essentially, you could have 3 or 4 people utilizing the same bed, and by sending you on home confinement, you still got to pay. because that means you have a job. And when you do have a job, even when you're in the halfway house, you got to give them 25% of your income. Yeah, you got to give them 25%. So if you're making $10, $2.50 of that goes to the halfway house. So they're pimping it. You're still getting pimped, you know what I mean? And you're most likely not making that much, but you're gonna have to pay them. And whenever you get paid every 2 weeks, they want their paycheck. You know, when I was in there, I had self-published some books. I had, you know, I was dabbling into the adult entertainment industry, and some people heard me talking with another guy, were hating, and they told staff. Staff called me in there. They basically took me off my job I was working at and wanted to know how much money I made from my book sales, how much money I made on the side doing adult films. They wanted 25% of all that. So it's a cold get down. And I'd like to tell you, watch who you talk to, watch who you run your mouth to, because motherfuckers be hating. A lot of these people ain't got shit going on. So yeah, man, they want 25%, you know, and you know, like I said, if they can rotate you out of there and get you home confinement, then they'll do it so they can rent the bed out to somebody else. And you know, eventually they can maybe even, it could be 4 or 5 people paying on that same bunk. Once you're on home confinement, they have times that they'll call you randomly and make sure you're home late at night, early in the morning. They can stop by and check on you. So if you get caught slipping, you know, they can violate you, send you back. Every Friday, you got to turn in a report of what you've done for the week if you're on home confinement. As far as while you're there, every first of the week, you got to turn in your work schedule and get it approved so you can go to your job. You know, they do, I think, provide to some degree a bus pass, but you know, you got to find your own way to get around. You know, a lot of people have cars and they park them down the street, or they do whatever, they get their little hustle on. But you know, the halfway house is a cold trick bag, man. Got to be smart. Got to navigate around the suckers up in there. Keep stuff to yourself. And you know, you might network and find somebody cool in there, but a lot of times, you know, a lot of these cats is just pieces of work. So the halfway house, it could be a good place, but it could also be a place where you can get caught up. So you just got to watch yourself. But that's the halfway house in the short.